Mr. Fletcher. Or do you prefer
Hello.
Fridge?
Either is fine. Either.
Thanks so much for making time for us. So we have been doing our recent champion interviews, as you may have been watching, mainly for our PQs, and we definitely think this particular event commands just as much luck, skill, and perseverance to actually become the new champion. Firstly, congratulations for becoming the second annual SWU-Australia draft champion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, for those that don't really know a bit about you, I've just got your champion photo here holding that Basket Forge Mandalorian Medal champion mat. Only two of its kind at the moment. Tell us, how did you feel after the win?
Yeah, I was shocked, to be honest. I'm pretty known in the community for despising draft and wanting nothing to do with it. So yeah, like I had some confused faces when I turned up to the event, and very confused faces when I won. So
I just so you know, I was not confused. But I know one thing is having been around the tables with a lot of really good players and seeing who's around the zoo in Victoria. It never surprises me just watching those that are very good at Premiere, that actually builds decks themselves and loves deck brewing. When you get them into draft, they do really, really well. So it comes down to the fundamentals, I think, and we're going to explore a bit about that today. So for those that don't know, I've just got the picture of Miss Ava floating around. Maybe for those that didn't understand how the format went for the draft championships, Fletch. Actually, no, I skipped a bit. For those that don't know you, can you tell us a bit about your SWU journey, maybe your TCG journey, or any known accolades, whether it's sports or TCGs, for people to get to know you?
yeah, so I've been playing competitive card games since I think as early as 2011. I started my journey with Pokemon and Vanguard when Vanguard first came to Australia, and I was very competitive. And I've bounced around different card games like Digimon, Dragon Ball, Magic the Gathering, Universus, a whole bunch of different card games over the years. And currently my competitive card game is Star Wars. In terms of accolades and achievements, I think the only real achievements I have are in Star Wars, because a lot of the other card games, I played them competitively, but I never really went to big tournaments or anything. Whereas Star Wars is really the first time where I've really dove into it and learnt the game and got myself to a high enough level to be a serious competitor.
Mate, you're definitely one of those. Everyone is definitely watchful, and I know you're very, very well known in the multiple continents that you do compete in. So, yeah, just regarding SWU, how come you've decided to take a bit more, competitive dive in this one compared to other card games? The ones, some of the ones that you mentioned there, I believe, have actually quite mature OP scenes as well, right? So,
Yeah, it really comes down to a couple things. One is I really enjoy the game, and the other is timing.
yep,
So, for example, when I played Pokemon and Vanguard, I was in high school, and I didn't really have the money. I didn't have the access to high level tournaments.
fair
Otherwise, I
enough.
would have loved to compete at a high level.
Makes sense.
And then, kind of, when I left high school, card games took a backseat, and it was more of a casual, fun thing. Like I played a lot of Commander, which I treated more like a board game. I didn't really.
Don't
I
tell
didn't
them.
really.
Don't tell them.
Well, the point of Commander is for it to be a fun social game, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I treated it, a fun social game. And other games like Digimon, I took very seriously, but the community kind of died out after the first, 6 to 12 months. Same as Universus, when I played it, it was called My Hero Academia, which it then rebranded after a while.
Yeah.
And I competed in the first My Hero Academia Oceanics, and from memory, I was the only Victorian to make top 16, and then the game just died. Like a whole bunch of people I knew stopped playing, and then I lost interest. So
Fair
it's
enough.
kind of a combination of I really enjoy the game, which some of the previous games not so much. But also the timing of like I have the time and the money and the ability to really dedicate myself to the game.
That makes so much sense. And there's Vegas, baby, you know, Vegas. And I hear this many times. The Star Wars crowd is one of the most friendly and welcoming crowds. We got less Nazi, rule Nazis, as they say, trying to shark people. And yeah, man, I'm just glad you're part of our game. So now, explain for those. I've got the graphic here, of the 3 different sets of Star Wars that was drafted. Could you explain to those unknowns to what we do in our Victorian Championships? How is the actual event run, and what does it entail?
Yeah, so the event was separated into 3 different phases. Phase 1 was a draft of Legends of the Force, which was a normal draft. We got into pods of 8, and then it was best of 1 for 3 rounds of Swiss. And then we led into Phase 2, which was basically the same thing but with Twilight. So we drafted Twilight in our pods, and then had 3 rounds of best of 1 Swiss. And these 2 phases were kind of connected, so that the leaderboard carried over from Phase 1 to Phase 2, which meant if you were winning in Phase 1, you would be versing people who were winning even at the start of Phase 2. It wasn't a completely blank slate. And that means we had 6 rounds of Swiss total between 2 different sets. And then Phase 3 was a top 8 single elimination bracket, as we're used to for top cuts. And that was a draft of Spark Rebellion. And then, we took the 8 people, drafted Spark Rebellion, and then according to the top 8 standings from the leaderboard of the first 2 phases, we were then paired and did a pretty typical top cut.
Was it best of 1s or best of 3s in top cut?
The top cut was best of 3.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so interesting. And while we're talking about it, this was a SWU-Australia led event. A massive shout out to Kristen and the team there at Turn Order Games in Dandenong for hosting the event. And none of these events will happen without LGSs supporting us, our members and the community coming to attend these events. We're a non-profit organisation, and also none of this can happen without generous prizing support from the LGSs, but special members of our community such as Rodders. Massive shout out. Rodders gave an AVA showcase for a door prize. I got a birdie told me you actually run it, but you won the first choice, but you decided to take one of the other special mats that was donated by Rodders as well, as opposed to the AVA showcase. So good on you for leaving some of the shinies for the other people. I know there were some happy faces on that particular day for those. So now tell for those, you drafted 3 different sets: Twilight, Spark Rebellion, and Legends of the Force. Which one was your favorite?
My favorite was probably the Spark Rebellion.
Mate, not surprised at all.
It's been a while since I kind of played with those cards, and it brought back some good feelings. Man,
I swear, there's some states in Australia that don't do draft, and there's just no draft scene. And I just said, you really haven't lived till you've done an 8-person Spark Rebellion draft. Whether the FFG article is right or wrong, they called themselves that set as a masterpiece. And if you play it in a draft format, you really do, like you say, get to relive some of the power levels. Some of the concentration of card quality. And it just really shows in the gameplay as well. We get bloody 18 leaders every single set, and that set actually showcases why some of those leaders actually are draft orientated. For example, Jin is so good, right? And what's the other one? Chewbacca. All these other leaders that aren't so competitive actually become very competitive when it comes down to actually draft. So now I've got your standings there. It was a 23 person event. You took finished with a 7-1-1 match record. So from my understanding, you took through. You were undefeated in your first phase. And in the second phase, you continue to have a very high score rate and only drop one game to the finalist. And then went totally undefeated in the best of three Spark Rebellion. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so in phase 2, I did drop one game to Rodney. I also ID'd one round.
IDing in draft? Yeah, what is this nonsense?
Yeah, I know, it was a competitive event, and it got to the last round, and my opponent was undefeated, and it was just me and him. We were first and second.
Top in tables.
And we were like, do you really want to play this? We're both making top cut anyway.
Yeah. This is obviously Sam, I assume.
Yeah, Sam.
Okay, something we ask is, what was the highlight for the day or a funny moment that you remember that you'd love to share?
I can't really remember a funny moment. Highlight of the day. There's nothing really in particular. It was just a good day. Had lots of fun, chilling with friends, playing card games.
Awesome, man. Well, what was the most memorable matchup that you remember?
My most memorable matchup definitely would have been facing Rodney in phase 2. So we were both on Anakin. I was on Anakin green. He was on Anakin blue.
Yep.
And it was very back and forth. Like, I started with initiative, so I got the early jump because my unit was able to kill his while surviving, and having that kind of board state with Anakin is massive. And then it went back to him when he played some removal, and he got some big cards on board, and then I played removal, and it was very, like, we just kept going back and forth with who had the board state, who had what. In the end, he managed to win that game, but it was a very, very tight, anyone could win at any moment kind of game.
Yeah, I'm pegging that Anakin leader is now, after Force Throw ban, going to be one of the more popular leaders based on, it's people are respecting it again. And it's going to be really, really cool. Now, just going to quickly run through. Thank you for sharing us. I've got here your winning deck lists. Maybe if you just want to talk a little bit about what you remember, on as we go through these deck lists, explain to the viewers, why did you get that leader? Was it a particular card you saw first? Was there some particular colors in your packs, or was there particular situations you read in the room that there was an open color? So, those little intricacies that you can't just tell from looking at someone's deck list. So I've got your Talzin Red, Legends of the Force. I'll pass it over to you to explain to you how you drafted this one.
Yeah, pretty simple. I just chose the best leader.
I don't know about that. Yeah, go.
I know from previous experience, I've drafted this set a couple times. It's either Talzin or Obi-Wan. Are typically like the best performing leaders.
Yep.
And I didn't get an Obi-Wan, but I did get a Talzin. So I kind of just said, I'll play Talzin something. I wasn't confident on the red. You can see I've actually got a couple green cards because I started drafting Talzin green.
Makes sense.
I opened up my first pack and I was a Craving Power. And I'm like, cool, Talzin green, sounds good. And then it turns out that everyone else was wanting green cards, so I shifted over to red.
Yeah.
Which is fine because Talzin red is also
what pack? What pack did you swerve? Pack 1 or pack 2?
Pack 1.
Oh, clever. Very clever.
So
read the room.
It was kind of, I opened up my pack and I got Craving Power. I'm like, cool, here's Craving Power. And I passed some packs along and I got Overpower and I got a couple other green cards. And then the green cards stopped coming. And I was like, okay, something's up here. And then I saw some of the red cards, like Jedi in Hiding, and I saw Witcher of the Mist, so I took those, and I'm like, okay, now I can kind of shift between green and red, whatever I need to do, going into pack 2. And in pack 2, someone passed me Grand Inquisitor, and I'm like, cool, I'm going red.
Someone passed you Grand Inquisitor, legendary.
Yeah, the person to my left opened Grand Inquisitor, and they didn't need it in their colors, so they passed it to me, and I was like, great, this is a perfect card for Talisman Red. And from then on, I kind of decided on those colors.
It's actually funny because that would only happen in a proper competitive draft format, because generally speaking, in a normal weekly draft, everybody would take the $15 Grand Inquisitor card. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's foil as well, so I don't know if that makes it more expensive, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And any particular things you want to share about any other things with your deck and how it performed?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. First off is I don't think this is the best deck out of the 3. I think it's probably the worst built deck. The only reason I went undefeated was because all 3 of my opponents didn't get a turn 1 play. And in draft, that's basically suicide.
Oh, wow. On that particular note, what is the ideal number first turn plays in a 30-card draft deck?
The maths is 7.6.
Yeah. So 8.
You want 8. So 7 is like the minimum you should be aiming
so you got
for.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
A lot of people...
Yep.
A lot of people go up to like 9 or 10 as well, because if you're doing best of 1, you really need that turn 1 play.
Yeah.
And you need a curve as well.
Yeah.
How many do I have?
You got 7.
Yeah, I've got 7, and 3 of those are 1-drops. Like I kind of struggled for turn 1 plays with this deck, but yeah.
But your top end carried you through based on and Talzin, as you said, very, very strong leader, and you got your Talzin Assassin and your Karis, and your Accolades of the Beyond, and obviously GI, so you're in a good spot, and you had your plenty of blue Sentinels to jam up the space lane in case there was someone who was doing some dodgy stuff. So now,
yeah.
Do you remember the decks you versed?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not off the top of my head. I can pull up Melee if you'd like.
No. Don't worry about it. So Now let's go to Mr. Anakin Green. So knowing Rodney being a finalist, I assume that was game 3 that you dropped to him. And tell us about for those drafting Twilight of the Republic, such an anticipated set. I see some Aylas, you're pulling legendaries left, right, and center. Tell us about the draft journey for this particular phase.
Yeah, so Anakin is... I don't even think it's an argument. Anakin is the best draft leader in the set.
Agree.
His ability makes value trading very good, which being able to kill opponents' units and keep your units is super important in draft. When I had the Anakin, when I opened my 3 packs, actually, I got Mace Windu, and Anakin. So I was drafting something Red Heroism.
Yep.
And I had the Anakin, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to play Anakin.
Yeah.
And similar to Taliesin, I actually started drafting this on yellow, so you can see that yellow Prisoner of War in my deck.
Yeah.
And I started drafting on yellow, and then as the cards were coming around, I noticed there were a lot of green Heroism cards up for grabs. Not many other people in my pod were drafting green Heroism.
Yep.
So I think I made the switch quite early, after like 3 or 4 passes. And I'm glad that I did, because some of these green Heroism cards are great. Especially if you look at my deck, I prioritized a lot of Republic cards.
Yep.
Because there's some synergy with Republic in the set, such as...
Yep. All Republic, except for 1.
Yeah, Fire First Leader, which allows you to heal 3 from base, which is quite important in a lot of matchups.
Yep.
And there was another one, Republic Tactical Officer, which is, a great pump. So my goal with this was just good value Republic cards for some of that Republic synergy. some of the important choices was I kept getting past twice the pride, which is an interesting card because I love being able to Voltron in draft.
Yeah.
If even if you look at my Talisman deck, I think it had like 5 upgrades in it or something.
Yeah.
Because in a draft environment, when you don't have the confiscates and the bamboozles and the rivals fall, it's very, if you have a leader with a lot of health and you can put some sticks on it, that can normally just win you games.
Makes sense.
So people were passing me twice the pride. I took those. I never actually put them on any of my own units. I use them as removal more often than not.
Oh, interesting. Very clever.
Yeah. So it doesn't actually say attached to a friendly unit. It just says attached to a unit and deal it 2 damage.
Yep.
So a lot of the time I was trading up or trying to trade up by hitting one of my units into theirs and then playing twice the pride on it to kill it. So having cards that can do multiple things in draft is also quite important, such as twice the pride.
No, makes sense. And you got the Daring Raid as well. And you got the Anakin Interceptor. So, mate, people were giving you the good stuff.
Yeah, it was wild. In this draft, I just got the pick, basically, of a lot of green stuff because there wasn't much green going around. Like, I've got 2 B2 Legionnaires, which are absolutely insane with Anakin because it's Sentinel and Overwhelm.
Well, yeah, that's nuts, man. That's nuts. And the Ayla, Sakura, of course. So
Yeah. I never actually got to use her, but she's definitely a good card. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Jinno. So I'm glad to see here you did follow your 8 card rule instead of 7 for this particular one. But as you said, it was a very close game against Rodders with another Anakin Blue. I think you mentioned you're versing. So
Yes. Yeah.
Blue's got some really interesting cards as well, but it's actually really interesting to note now listening to the way you're drafting. And this is such a skill set that I struggle with myself, is reading the room. Like you said, really noticing those little nuances. Oh, it's been 4 packs. Everyone's passing me red or green. It's really open. And then being conscious enough to make the switch first pack. Which you've been able to demonstrate twice, which really sort of showcases your skill level in this particular play. So congratulations, man. So good. Now I've got your hated deck here. Boba Fett green. At least, I must say, you got hyperspace versions of them, so obviously you had to play it because it was stylistic. But, mate, take us through the top 8, best of 3. Some would say the best leader ever created. Tell us about your draft journey there before we go into matchups and the finish run.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. So when we were doing a leader draft, I kind of had to make a decision between either Boba Fett or Cassian, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So when I drafted this set, what I like to do when I draft is I try to keep multiple leaders of similar colors, so that I don't feel so locked into one leader. I don't like being locked into a specific leader, but I don't mind being locked into a color. So for this set, I think my leaders were Boba Fett and Thrawn and Tarkin, which are yellow, green, and all of them are villainy.
All villainy, which is very, very interesting. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And my goal with choosing the leaders that I did was that I would probably be able to build something good enough as long as I stayed within those kind of yellow-green colors.
Yep.
So my goal was to build Boba Fett because I had the Boba Fett and it was the best leader I had available to me. But I kind of figured, if Boba Fett didn't work out, I could switch it to like Tarkin yellow, or I could switch it to Thrawn, which would have been horrible, but I could if I needed to.
Yeah.
And you can see that I some of the units that I took were Imperial, and I was specifically taking some Imperial stuff in case I was going to play Tarkin.
Yep.
But I managed to get the Waylays and the Strike Trues and some of these like removal pieces, and I was like, okay, Boba Fett in this case is just going to be better. So when I started drafting, I was picking red cards initially.
Mm.
Um, when I say picking red cards, I should probably specify I wasn't exclusively picking red cards. One of my main strategies is to pick a color, like a primary color, and get as many of those cards as possible. So for these three leaders, my primary color was yellow. So if I had the choice between a good green card or a good red card or a good yellow card, I'd normally pick yellow
Yep.
because it was because I didn't want to be so locked into a color within the first pack.
Yeah, so just abbreviating as that is picking a monocolor. Yeah. Like a single.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So for a lot of my draft decks, you'll see a lot more of one color than another. Normally, sometimes, not always.
Yep.
Because I'll have a color in mind, and for this deck, I really wanted to build something yellow. So I was trying to find all the best yellow cards, and especially in the first pack when I was still trying to figure out what I was doing. I think I picked like 2 red cards, I picked a blue card, I picked a couple green cards, and it wasn't until the end of the first pack when I kind of decided I'm going to be building Boba Green. I think I grabbed the strike trues at the start of the second pack, and I was like, okay, Boba Green it is, because when you've got the waylays and you've got the strike trues, it kind of built itself at that point.
Awesome. That makes so much sense. So, how was? Do you remember the matchups here? Because I'm going to swerve a little bit back to the actual names in the top 8 there. So, for those that don't know the Melbourne scene, we've got Fletcher here, who's a first Australian PQ winner, all the way back at Shadows of Galaxy. We've got our other PQ winner, Rodders, Agent 86 here, from the Jump to Lightspeed era. We've got Sam, who was a top cut in our most recent PQ. Mr. Mac is a local there at Turn Order, who's already a showdown champion. I know he's been hitting some massive top cuts. We've got Linus here, who is a really up-and-comer young man, doing so well. One Piece addict / swooster. He's been top cutting most recent PQs. We've got Ubek is there. He is a top cut from our last draft championship, and I know him to be one of the best drafters in Melbourne. Then we've got Mr. Eggs on Toast himself, your teammate, Ollie, JTL final PQ winner there, and Relax Dave, which is Twilight of the Republic top cut Django player. One person I rate very, very highly. Busy dad, comes down with no practice, top cuts PQs, and wins showdowns and limiteds and sealed. So, mate, that was a very, very heavy top 8 you had there. So tell us about the top 8 and how did you go? Well, obviously you won, but what was the matchups?
Yeah, so the games were interesting. I actually played 3 very different decks. So my first opponent for top 8 was my teammate Ollie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ollie. So we're happy that 2 of the 3 Scoop City members that attended made top 8, and then they're immediately paired against each other. He was playing Iden Red. No, sorry, not Iden. It was Krennic Red.
Did he have to play blue villainy even in draft, that man? My God.
Of course it does. So he drafted Krennic Red, which was
it's a good deck.
It was a fairly cool deck.
Yeah.
But it couldn't handle the amount of pressure that I was putting out.
Yeah.
Especially since, game 1, I think I went resupply into Boba Fett, and I used all 8 resources on his deployment tent, and I put down I played a waylay, put down 2 units, deployed Boba at the same time, and that was just so much board presence. He could not cope with it.
Not by healing 1 damage a turn, no.
Yeah. So unfortunately, his deck, he had removal in his deck, but the removal is 1 for 1, and when I'm putting down 2 units a turn, it got overwhelmed too easolly,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
I took down that match 2-0.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ollie, again. After Ollie, I went into Matt, I think, Mac Method.
Yep.
He was on Jin Ursa Blue. Which was, yeah, I think he was kind of just taking the cards that were available to him.
Makes sense.
So similar to what I did in Twilight, where I saw a lot of green and just took the green. He saw a lot of blue yellow heroism. So he managed to get a lot of the very good blue red heroism cards out of the pod. But yeah, similar. It just didn't have the ability to keep up with the speed of what Boba Fett can do. Between strike trues and waylays being such good removal, and then costing 2 or less, depending on the board state. Yeah, he actually did drag out the games a fair bit, and then I think I stuck Reinforcement Walker, and that was it.
Mate, my favourite card, man. My favourite card. Love that card.
Oh yeah. I was so 50-50 about picking it, because I know that in draft you really only get up to 6, sometimes 7 resources.
Yeah.
And I was like, Reinforcement Walker, is that really what I want to be doing? And I put it in there, and it won me a few games, so very happy about that.
You also had a super laser tech as well, so you know.
Yeah, I did have the ramp, which definitely helps.
Yeah. And the finals?
The finals was a mirror match. So Rodney was also drafting Boba Green, and I'm very annoyed because he sat to my left and was the person before me on two of the packs.
Yep.
So he basically got first pick at every Boba Green card. He got Fire Spray. He got was it the 7th Legion, the one that gets
97th Legion. Yep, 97th Legion.
Yeah, that one, 97.
Yeah, another one of my favorite cards. Yep.
Yeah, so I think he also got a Waylayer to himself.
Yeah.
So I was terrified going into that game because
that 8-person pod had quite a few waylays. Very cool. Very cool. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there were at least 3, because I think Rodney had 1, I had 2,
yeah,
and there are a couple of other yellow decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was terrified going into this game because we were playing a mirror match, and I hate mirror matches, and his deck was just objectively better because he had first pick at everything that was coming my way for 2 of the packs. I honestly don't know what happened. I think it's partially Rodney got some bad draws. He didn't see a Fire Spray in either of the games. And there were probably positions where if he just played a Fire Spray, he would have won. Because unless I have a Waylay or something, there's not much I can do about those.
Yep.
And another part is that I focused this deck a lot more on blocking my opponent than he did. His deck was very aggressive from memory. It had a lower curve and tried to spam units on the board.
Yep.
Whereas mine is a little bit more defensive.
What color was his bobber?
Green.
Green as well. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we're both drafting the exact same deck.
Yep.
Which is why it's very frustrating. He was the seat immediately before me.
Oh, I can see the desperate additions here of Underworld Thug and a Carillion Freighter, and yeah, you had to put what you could in there, so it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have a lot of options available to me with this list, but yeah. So I think one of the other advantages I had was we drafted differently, and the way that I drafted Boba Green was not as aggressive. And it was a little bit more defensive. So I've got the removal. I've got ambush units like Bosk and Syndicate Lackeys. I have Sentinels, and a lot of these kind of cards helped. I was able to block up some of the aggression, and I just had the better late game than he did.
Mate, congratulations. Both top players. I know how skillful that guy is. So it no matter how, when you got really good players playing each other, there's always an element of luck in draws and, you know, who sees particular cards first and who wins the initiative tokens. But it still comes down to skill on, you know, being able to draft and it just drafting adds, and I'm sure you'll probably agree now, you've gotten more into it. It is a totally different skill set to constructed, and we are very lucky in this game that the game is designed for this. And I, you know, hopefully from making this video and sharing your amazing journey to the SWU community is that we see more people getting into draft. So on that particular note, having known you for a little bit, Mr. Fletcher, you're self-proclaimed shit at draft. I don't like it. It's draft. I'm not coming. And I'm not coming. Is it constructed or draft? Draft. I'm not coming. And then obviously they announced World Championships. To be a world champion, you got to be good at draft. So I'm sure that helped. But tell us, how did you go from, you know, absolute bottom feeder in the draft ranks to top of the Australian draft rank as we stand right now? So, you know, for our teacher noob session, how do you get better at draft?
Very good question. So I think my self-proclaimed I'm shit at draft is partly because I never tried. When I've done draft in the past, I normally build weird, crazy decks. I look at new synergies. A lot of the times, I'll just take all the space units. So I think one of my drafts in set 2, every space unit I saw, I just took it. I didn't care what color it was. And then I think I came second in that draft because no one else had space units, and it was an open lane. So I've never really tried in draft. I have tried in other drafts like Magic the Gathering, and I think I've done numerous Magic the Gathering drafts, and I've never done better than like 0-4 or 1-3.
Wow.
So I think part of the stigma carried over to Star Wars being a not the same game, but similar enough, and kind of the mindset of it.
Yeah.
So I've always hated draft, partly because I just prefer constructed. I like building the deck that I want and getting very good at the one deck and then playing that deck. Whereas draft requires a much wider skill set, being able to play whatever comes your way and whatever leaders you get. Another thing that helped is actually learning how to draft, so putting in some effort. I went on YouTube on Saturday morning and watched like 2 or 3 videos and kind of built a framework in my head that helped me choose some of these cards. And I just took advice that I found online and implemented it in that day in what I was picking, and it all worked out. And there's of course luck. Like I managed to get probably the best leader in all 3 sets, which does help.
That makes sense. What was those frameworks, just to recite them for people?
Yeah, so I had 3 or 4 rules in my head when picking cards.
Yep.
First rule was prioritize units over everything else.
Yep.
I found, like, I've never really thought about it in draft before because I've never cared about draft, but when I was doing the draft, I realized that board presence is everything in the game.
Yep.
There's quite limited removal, and there's somewhat limited synergies between cards because you're just kind of getting what you get given.
Yep.
But if you're able to have good statted units, 3 cost 3 3s, 2 cost 2 3s, units that have good universal abilities like shielded or ambush, all that really helps. So the first rule when picking cards was I'll take a look at the units and be like, are there any good units? And if I picked something that was not a unit, it was either because there weren't any units available in that pack for my deck, or that non-unit card was worth a lot more than the unit that I might have picked, such as like No Good to Me Dead or Waylay in this deck. So board presence is key. Without board presence, your deck just dies. So I spent a lot of time focusing on units. The second rule of draft that I kind of had in my head is removal is very underrated. Um, I've, previous when I've drafted, I've never picked removal. I was like, why would I pick removal in draft? I'm just going to build something red. I'm going to go face. There's no point for removal. But when I was drafting and picking some of the cards, I had in my head, good efficient removal can win games, and it definitely worked in my favor. For example, Twilight Republic in my Anakin deck, I had Take Captive, and then I also had Prisoner of War, which was basically the yellow version of Take Captive. And those two cards helped me so much. There are a lot of positions where my opponent will just play this 6, 7, 8 cost unit, and there was no way for me to kill it on board, and I would have just lost if my opponent claimed and swung with it at base. But having some kind of removal, being able to get those big things off the board late game, really, really helps.
No, makes sense.
And probably the third thing, which is one of the most key things that I'm learning, is have turn 1 plays. So I had a draft last week, I think, and I had 4 turn 1 plays in my deck.
Yep.
And I luckily drew them. But in draft, one thing that I definitely saw, because 3 of my opponents didn't have turn 1 plays, is if you don't, kind of ties into rule 1, if you don't get some kind of board presence, you will just lose. Board presence is the entire point of, the entire goal of draft decks. So what a lot of the choices I made, especially in the earlier packs, was making sure I had turn 1 plays, and there were points where I had 2 units, and like one was a 5 cost and one was a 2 cost, and I was like, I really want this 5 cost unit, because maybe it was a Syndicate Lackeys or another Bosk, and I was like, this would really elevate my game, but first I have to get to there, and to get to there, I need turn 1 plays. Very important.
So I'm just going to summarize here. I've just written it down. Prioritise unit number 1. It's all about board presence, especially units that have amazing keywords, or some people call them bombs, such as ambush or shield. That really helps. And then the second key point you mentioned here is removal is absolutely unrated, which also feeds into board presence is key, and winning the board state. We both know that drafts are more mid-range battles than anything else. So good efficient removal wins games, as you said, and examples of that was Take Captive and Prisoner of War. Take Captive can take anything off the board, any power level, whether they got shields or hidden or whatever. So absolutely underrated card in my opinion. And on to finish that particular note, you're saying just have turn 1 plays, and I've just remembered our mathematic was 7.6 was the ideal number, which rounds it off to 8. Noticing your first draft was 7, second draft was 8, and your third draft was 9. So you're obviously following your own framework here. And if you whiff your turn 1, you lose. So prioritize this. And I guess the last thing is draft the best, draft Boba Fett. So, e.g., draft a strong leader. You need to do a bit of research before attending drafts to know out of the possible 18 leaders. Don't just draft the one that you get the shiny showcase or something if you want to win. So anything else you want to add to that, or all good?
Yeah, those are really the 3 key important things. The other things I would add, probably less important. One is be flexible in the colors you're picking. So for the first, I think for all 3 of these drafts, the color I ended up with was not the color I initially chose.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to what I was saying before, I tend to choose a primary color, and I try and take all the good cards of that primary color, and then the secondary color will reveal itself at the end of pack 1 normally, depending what I see come around. You want to take advantage of what colors other people aren't taking. So if you see that no one's taking blue cards, then all the best blue cards are going to be yours. And the last thing is something that I don't think a lot of people talk about in Star Wars draft, but Voltroning your leader. Voltron is the act of putting lots of upgrades on something, investing a lot of resources into one unit. But being able to put a lot of upgrades on your leader is very, very good. Not really something I've noticed before. Definitely noticed on Saturday, because all of my decks have some kind of upgrades, which normally went on the leader, because there's not a lot of leader removal in the sets.
Nah.
When it comes to constructed, Voltroning has been traditionally a poor strategy.
Yep.
We have Bamboozle and Confiscate, and we have Rivals Fall, No Good to Me Dead. There's a lot of cards that kind of shut down your deck if you're investing a lot of resources into one unit. But in draft, where you've got a much limited pool of cards, and where people might not want to invest, a slot for something like Bamboozle, being able to get a leader that has a lot of health and then put an upgrade on it, and having that unit attack 6 or 7 damage consistently, absolutely just wins games.
Man, it's funny you say that. Like, I know Anakin is the unquenchable best leader draft in Twilight Republic, but mate, a Quinlan Voss with a General Blade, all from the same set, would have been pretty hard for you to deal with too. So, on that note,
yeah,
mate, thank you so much for the insight, and for someone that taught himself on the morning as a refresher on how to draft, you implemented it really well. And I actually really liked the way you've approached this, and I'll add it to the description. Feel free to link me those videos if there's anything you think is useful. I'll add it to the description for our viewers as well. So I'm just going to end our little exercise. What I've done is I've Googled a Star Wars pack stimulator, and we're just going to do a bit of a, to show the people that inspire the people to draft. We're just going to pretend that we open these, and we'll get your insights in terms of applying those things that you mentioned before about monocoloring and etc. So I've now just got our 3 leaders in front of us that we open our packs. For those that's never drafted before, you get 3 packs of constructed. Unless it's a chaos draft, it's usually all one set. For this one, we're using the Jump to Light Speed set. And you always take out your bases and your leaders first. So that's how it does. And then you pick one, usually the one you really think you might want to play. And then you pass 2 on until all the leaders are passed and drafted. So in this set, we've got Luke Skywalker, Hero of Yavin, we've got Rio, we've got Poe. Take us through what would be your pick and why.
My first instinct is to pick Luke.
Yep.
This just comes from my experience of set 4.
Yep.
I don't draft a lot, but when I do it. I drafted a lot in set 4 for some reason, and I think I picked Luke in every single draft that I did, and it performed so well.
Yep.
This kind of comes back to what you were saying before of know the set that you're drafting when you get to it. And for me, looking at these 3 leaders, what stands out is Luke and Rio. I know that these 2 leaders have performed very well in draft, or at least that's what I've heard. Those 2 leaders have performed very well. And Luke is a very simple leader to draft. All you need is spaceships and fighters, and in this set there's loads of them. So it wouldn't be hard to get the cards you need for that leader to work.
Yeah, so in summary, what I'm hearing is pick the power level, obviously, the leader, and also understand the card pool that's available to you to synergize with it. And then also, just picking based on power level and adaptability, because I do know Luke can actually be played in multiple colors. So, very, very good. Now moving on to pack 1, which has that all-inspiring rare slot being taken by Numbat Village. So, looking at this pack here, mate, I don't actually know if it's possible to get 2 Jedi light cruisers, but anyway, the simulator seems to have done it. But what would be your pick and why, knowing that you've taken Luke?
Knowing that I've taken Luke, the first thing I'm looking at is red fighters.
Yep.
So knowing that I've taken Luke, my primary color even if like these 3 leaders were my 3 choices I had available to me,
Yep.
I'll be looking immediately at whatever red units there are, specifically red space units.
Yep.
Because of the leaders I have available to me.
Yeah.
There's 2 red space units here. One of them is a 1-cost 2/2. Was it crack shot wiring or something?
That's it. That's the one.
It's okay, but black one is very good.
Black one's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's also a rare. So this pack has 2 rares.
That's weird. Okay, must be a foil one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, first thing I noticed when I pulled up the image is just black one.
Yep.
And knowing that I've taken Luke Skywalker as one of my leaders.
Yep.
And I'm looking for red heroism fighter units. This is my immediate first pick.
And it satisfies the 2-drop consistency slot too.
Yes, and it takes up a very good turn 1 play.
Now for the uninitiated, some people might be like, "Ooh, rare base, Lake Country, or Tarkentown or ECL." Explain to people what your view of drafting a rare base is.
My view is that if it isn't ECL, it's probably not worth it.
Yep.
Rare bases are great in constructed when you can take advantage of them.
Yep.
But and when they synergize with the cards that you're putting in the deck. But when it comes to rare bases in draft, it's very rare that the ability of the base is good enough to take the hit in life points, unless it's ECL. Because ECL is just generically good. It works with everything. Not a lot of, but basically every other rare base needs some kind of synergy to work with it. Like Tarkentown needs you to be able to efficiently ping or damage units. If you're going something like Colossus, you need a lot of card draw in your deck, otherwise you're going to run out of cards. Even, Nabat Village?
Yep.
For Nabat Village to work, you need... it typically goes in combo decks, where you've got a lot of turn 1 and turn 2 plays.
Yep.
You're probably not going to be building a combo deck in draft, because you can't guarantee what cards are going to come your way. So, like, maybe some more experienced Styles drafters have their own views, but for me personally, if it's not ECL, I'm never taking a rare base, because they're probably not generically good enough to fit with a draft deck.
Perfect answer, man. I can see why you won. Pack number 2. Now I'm at the one that's got a Nadari Dockyards is the one I'm looking at. What would be your pick?
So there's a few things that I see. It kind of depends on the colors. The first thing I see, taking into consideration that I'm probably going to be building Luke Skywalker, there's a couple fighter. There's 2 fighter, 3 fighter units that would be working with this leader. There's Droid Missile Platform, which is red, which is the same color as our leader. We've got Death Space Skirmisher, which is yellow, and we've got Red Squadron X-Wing, which is blue. So it kind of comes down to what colors we're picking. We've also got Skyway Cloud Car, another yellow fighter. I didn't realize that was a fighter. If this was in the first pack, where I was still kind of not figuring out what colors I want to work with, I would only be looking, mainly only be looking at the red cards. We've got Droid Missile Platform, we've got System Shock. System Shock doesn't hit leaders, unfortunately, but there are quite a few upgrades in this set that I'll want to be able to get rid of. So similar to how I said before, removal is quite effective in draft. Efficient upgrade removal can also be very effective, because a lot of people, similar to me, want to put upgrades on things. So the Droid Missile Platform and System Shock are probably the first things I'm looking at. And if, in nearly any scenario, I'd be picking Droid Missile Platform, because units are key to any kind of draft.
Even though it's not a fighter, you would still pick it just because it's red?
Yeah, so the things I'm looking at are stats mainly.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I don't really. The first thing that I look at when it comes to units is the stat line good?
Yep. Just good
Because
units. Yep.
it could, even if it's a fighter, if it has a bad stat line, it's probably not worth running still. 3 cost 4/2 is a good stat line, especially if you're trying to build an aggro deck. Plus the indirect damage helps on top of that. Even though it's not a fighter, because it's just red and it's a space unit and it's a good stat line, that would probably be my first pick.
Makes sense, man.
If I've already settled into a color, like if this is pack 2, pack 3, and I've decided I'm playing Luke yellow, I'll probably be taking instead the Death Space Skirmisher.
Yep.
Just because it has effectively the same stat line, 3 cost 3/3 instead of 3 cost 4/2.
Yep.
If you want to
Yep.
add
Total
the
stats.
stats together.
Yep.
But it also has the advantage of being a fighter, which helps trigger Luke's ability. And the when played is very effective.
100%.
So it's not quite removal, but being able to get tempo over your opponents is also very effective. If you can play him initiative, turn to play this, stop your opponent from attacking you, you get that initial tempo advantage, which is very important in draft.
Makes sense.
Similar, if I was dedicated to Luke Blue, which very good color, especially in draft, I would be picking the Red Squadron X-Wing because it's got an even better stat line, 3 cost 3/4, and it's a fighter, and its when played is also I think it's quite good.
Awesome.
Card draw is quite limited in Star Wars, especially in draft, and being able to see more cards is just good in any scenario.
Now, just final pack. Just tell us about what would be your pick here.
Ooh, this is an interesting one. So there's no red fighters or red. There's red units. There's one red unit. So the first thing I'm looking at is what cards are on my colors. We've got a few that will always go with Luke. We've got, can't quite make out the name of that unit. Insurgent Saboteurs, which is a 6 cost 6/5.
Yeah, I love that card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wins games.
Tantive.
Yep.
We've got Tantive 4, which is 7 cost 5/7 Sentinel, and it creates a token. And we've got, I can't quite make out the name of that other vehicle.
Which one? The dilapidated ski speeder?
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
So I'm, at a first glance, the main thing I'm trying to figure out is what cards fit the colors and the theme of the deck. Those 3 colors will always work with Luke. So if this was pack 1, I'd probably be picking between them. You've also got the 2 cost 1/3 on the very right on the top row. So I'm probably just. It depends on when I'm picking, really.
Makes sense.
If I've already decided I'm playing green, nearly 100% of the time I'm taking the Phoenix A-Wing.
Yeah, such a good card.
It's a good unit, and it's a 10-1 play. Checks a lot of boxes in my head. But if I'm having to be a little bit more cautious on the colors, if I really need more turn 1 plays, I'll be taking that turn 1 play that's on the right. Otherwise, I'll probably be taking the Tantive.
As a
one thing about my draft decks is I love having 2 or 3 big bombs in the 6 to 7 cost range. Because removal is quite limited in draft, and if you're able to be the aggressor and get damage in your opponent's base and then just drop something with a lot of attack or a lot of health, it's not easy for the opponent to get rid of, and having one big unit can just win you games. And specifically, Tantive is not just a big unit, but it's a big space unit with Sentinel. And considering the set that we're drafting, most people are probably building space decks. So having one big bomb that can get in a good amount of damage, but also block up the entire lane. This card in itself, played at the right time, can just win you games.
Mate, masterful, only way to describe it. Just a closing out, man. Thanks so much for your time. So much appreciated. So much insight here. You know, send us those links of anything that you think's worth sharing to the draft community that wants to get better. Can't wait to see your performance soon, and continue drafting with us. Any shout outs and closing comments you want to leave the public with?
Wanted to give a shout out to Rodney. So I think Rodney, not only was he a finalist in the event, he, from what I heard, he helped market the event.
Yep.
And get it up and running. He donated the Ava Chris showcase.
Champion.
Which funnily enough, in one of the raffles, he actually won the Ava Chris showcase and then donated it back to re-raffle.
Yeah.
So not only was he, a great person to help run the event, donate a showcase, but he came second, and we built fairly similar decks in all three phases, which was funny, and then went into a mirror match, and I was very fortunate to come out with that win. But he was a great person all around and put up a great fight.
Man, congratulations again, and mate, agree with everything you say. So much learnings here. We're going to have to unpack it, but once again, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.